18 months after our first WGN Investigates report on questionable spending by South Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard, it appears she has been forced off the ballot.
Dolton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard, who was appointed to that position tonight, lost her bid for the Democratic Party's nomination.
Renowned for her inflated persona and self-proclaimed title of super mayor, controversial politician Tiffany Henyard is battling valiantly to hold on to her power in Dolton Township and Dolton, Illinois. She is currently involved in yet another scandal, this time over her exclusion from the Democratic ballot for allegations of election interference. Voter suppression, corruption, and even litigation are being directed at the town's supervisor, although the fallout has been nothing short of explosive. Is this the story of a political figure fighting for justice, or is it a desperate attempt to maintain power in the face of mounting criticism?
7 minutes. That's all it took for Tiffany Henyard to be out as the Democratic nominee for Dolton Township Supervisor, and she left here visibly.
For the first time in more than 30 years, a contentious decision made by State Senator and Township Democratic Committeeman Napoleon Harris rocked local politics and created the conditions for unheard-of drama. Both supporters and detractors conjectured that Harris's decision to organize a caucus rather than a primary election to decide which candidates would be on the ballot was a calculated attempt to obstruct Tiffany Henyard's path to the nomination. That this move was deliberately designed to tip the scales against Henyard, and based on the results, her name was notably missing from the Democratic ballot for the next election. The main reason given for her disqualification was that she had failed to include a certified assessor on her ballot, a technicality that allowed Harris to completely reject her candidacy. Harris and his own group of candidates capitalized on this error and made sure that his faction won the award after dominating the caucus. Harris's decision to choose a caucus over the traditional primary process ignited intense discussions in the community about fairness, procedural integrity, and the reasons behind his choice. While some saw this as a valid use of procedural tools to uphold the standards of candidature, others denounced it as a calculated power grab intended to secure the Democratic nomination for the April election, diminish Henyard's impact, and thwart her goals. The consequences of this choice were felt well beyond the cusp hall, sparking heated discussions among party members and locals about the process's validity and the implications for local democracy amid charges of political sabotage. Harris's actions, according to Henyard and her allies, are a blatant attempt to subvert her leadership and seize power for his own political purposes. Harris and his supporters insist that the cause was held in compliance with Democratic Party guidelines and was an essential step in restoring legitimacy and order to local government in the face of heightened emotions. In addition to altering the electoral landscape, this divisive occurrence has further polarized and divided the community, raising long-lasting concerns about the distribution of power and responsibility in local politics. Reached its peak when Tiffany Henyard, visibly furious, stormed out of the caucus meeting and hurled sharp accusations at Napoleon Harris and his allies, whom she charged with orchestrating a coup to sabotage her political career. Tiffany's response to being disqualified from the caucus was nothing short of explosive, marking a dramatic escalation in what was already a highly contentious political saga. Her voice echoed with outrage as she reportedly declared this as election rigging at its finest, denouncing the process as not only an attempt to discredit her and deny her followers the right to vote, but also as blatant, according to Henyard. The caucus was a charade designed to remove her from the contest and stifle her constituents' desire. Her base found great resonance in her portrayal of Harris's actions as deliberate and undemocratic, arguing that the arrangement was a blatant power grab that made fun of the political process. Her exclusion was perceived as a glaring injustice, and she didn't stop at warranting involvement in speeches and interviews. She made it obvious that she would not take the alleged offense lying down and declared her intention to sue all parties involved in what she called a flagrant breach of democratic values. In addition to being a personal flight, her promise to sue turned into a rallying cry for her supporters, intensifying the controversy and further dividing the town for Henyard. This was a fight for her political survival and a campaign against what she portrayed as a corrupt system working against the interests of the people. Her disqualification and subsequent outburst have become central issues in the election drama that is currently playing out, igniting intense debate over the process's integrity and transparency. Critics claimed that Henyard's removal from the ballot was justified because she did not present a certified assessor on her slate, while her supporters maintain that Harris's move was merely a calculated move to consolidate power and crush opposition. But Har's defiance has only strengthened her resolve. She has positioned herself as a champion of democracy, wing to uncover what she says is widespread corruption and election malpractice. Her ferocious speech and unrelenting commitment have energized her base, while opponents claim she is more concerned with protecting herself than helping the community. The issue surrounding her has only served to widen the township's already existing RIS, with people strongly divided between those who see Henyard as a victim of political manipulation and those who view her as an opportunist who refuses to take responsibility. The legal battles Henyard has promised to start have the potential to further destabilize the township and impede progress on urgent community issues, but she maintains that these battles are essential to upholding the principles of justice and fairness. Her speeches continue to inspire supporters who see her as a fearless leader opposing a raid system, and her determination to fight back has ensured it is unclear whether her legal maneuver and outspoken defiance will eventually put her back in the race or further alienate her detractors. But what is certain is that Hen's explosive reaction to her disqualification has turned this local election into a high-stakes political showdown, highlighting her refusal to fade quietly and her political future. She is still the center of attention for Henyard, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Willingness to fight the current co at any cost as the issues of justice, power, and democracy are revealed in the SATA more significant than before, guaranteeing that this pivotal period in H's career would continue to be remembered as a turning point in the township's political.
If they could beat me, they would have went to the polls. But now when I bring the people out,
The entire process has been clouded by allegations of ballot suppression and dubious tactics, which led to complete mayhem during the caucus at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium. Tiffany Henyard, the Believer central figure, claims that the event, which was supposed to be a pivotal moment in deciding Thor Township's political future, turned into a divisive and controversial show. In this drama, PM started well before the event even got underway. According to Henyard, hundreds of her followers were denied the opportunity to participate and were made to wait outside the venue in bitter cold, with the fleet of buses transporting elders and other community members. She personally arranged transportation for many of these supporters, some of whom were elderly who had traveled great distances to attend. The caucus members reportedly arrived a little late, but rather than being given access or accommodations to make their voices heard, the attendees were turned away at the doors. Henyard described the entry restrictions as draconian, stating that even those who were able to approach the venue were met with dismissal. This effectively excluded the seniors from the process, leaving them stranded outside in the cold while they watch Harris and his slate quickly seize control of the proceedings. Inside, severe restrictions such as only being permitted to enter two at a time, which she strongly denounced as a calculated effort to reduce attendance and influence the cause outcome. The atmosphere inside the building was equally divisive, according to Henyard. According to Camp, Napoleon Harris and his supporters quickly nominated themselves for the Democratic ticket and adjourned the meeting, which lasted only 7 minutes and was hurriedly planned. She claims that the short and strictly regulated meeting was intended to minimize transparency and prevent any meaningful debate or opposition. The meeting's pace and format have only strengthened Harris claims that the process was a sham meant to exclude her and her supporters. She claims that the caucus was a travesty of democratic principles, presenting a clear picture of voter disenfranchisement and backdoor dealings that put power before justice. Her critics dismiss her claims as inflated and self-serving, arguing that procedural rules and logistical concerns rather than malicious intent were to blame for the chaotic events. Henyard frames the incident as representative of a larger attempt to rig the election and silence the voices of her constituents. The fact that so many people were allegedly left standing outside while such important decisions were made inside has become the main focus of her criticism, a copious version characterized by the claims of disenfranchisement. Many others in her neighborhood have been affected by the hurried judgments and exclusionary behaviors, which has increased public outrage over what happened that day. The political division in Gaughan Township has been further widened by the aftermath of the chaotic event, leaving voters divided and casting doubt on the process's integrity for Henyard and her allies. The caucus signifies more than just a personal failure. The Henyard story of what happened at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium continues to reverberate as a stark indictment of a system she claims is biased against her and her supporters, guaranteeing that this contentious episode stays at the forefront of Gaughan Township's political discourse, despite a larger attack on democratic norms and community representation that they say cannot go.
It's the right way. Illegal.
Tiffany Henyard supporters have unleashed a barrage of criticism against Napoleon Harris, claiming that he planned the caucus to further his personal goals and ensure an unchallenged route to political supremacy. Henyard's ENT supporter Keith Price called the event the most egregious swindle he has ever seen, claiming that hundreds of qualified applicants were unfairly turned away based only on price, and that this exclusion was not an accident, but rather a deliberate attempt to undercut Henyard supporters and guarantee Harris's slate won without opposition. This feeling of disenfranchisement is shared by Henyard's camp, who insisted that the process was riddled with anomalies intended to silence dissenting opinions. Election attorney Carrie Kraft here supports these claims, as her examination of the caucus revealed serious procedural infractions that undermine the caucus's legitimacy. She pointed out important errors like this. She also called attention to other anomalies that collectively compromise the transparency and fairness anticipated in a democratic process, such as the apparent failure to obtain signed affidavits from participants, a fundamental safeguard intended to confirm voter eligibility and preserve the legitimacy of such electoral exercises. Henyard camp's allegations that the caucus was not only defective but